The QK65 by Qwertykeys is one of the most hyped up keyboards in recent time, and rightfully so. It's got an aluminum case, stainless steel weight, hot swap or soldered PCB, 4 play options, and 2 types of gasket mounting that we saw in the Mr. suit, which is a $500 keyboard. The QK65, it starts at $160, kind of. Let's talk about it. So this is the QK65. All of the early content on this keyboard, the ones before April, were early prototype units. The one I have is a final retail copy, and I would know since I bought it for $233 US. Quite a lot more than the $160 price tag I mentioned in the beginning, but I'll talk about that once the build is done. Inside the carrying case you'll find the all metal case and weight, the rubber feet, and both types of gaskets, the PCB, plate foam and PE foam, and the plate of your choice. I went with palm, but you can also get aluminum, FR4, and polycarbonate. Also included is a screwdriver that has all 3 heads that you need for the build, a set of owl stabs which also includes stab pads, tick guards and washers, and a braided coiled cable. This included one is actually really high quality. It even has a layer of tech flex on it, but I wish they put more effort into the packaging as the USB-C connection is bent, but this is still the best included coiled cable that I've seen. So these are the parts that I'll be using in this build. I'll be using both the SP Star Meteor Whites and the Boba LTs in today's video since they're on opposite ends of the sound spectrum in terms of clack and thok to get a better feel for the overall sound signature of the board itself. Both of these switches are lubed with Qwertykeys 205 grade 0, with the Meteor Whites having the springs bag lube with GPL 105. The keycaps I'll be using are the nice PBT Noel keycaps by Canon Keys. These are a cheaper alternative to the very popular GMK Noel. So the first thing I'm going to do is disassemble the entire case. I use my wow stick to remove the weight, but the bottom screws use a hex head, so I just use the included screwdriver to remove it. The case itself is made up of 3 parts, the top housing, bottom housing, and aluminum weight. It isn't brass, so you won't have to worry about patina, I think. When it comes to stabs, I usually default to the Holy mod since it usually leads to good sounding stabs for a very long time. But because my last 2 Holy mod attempts went pretty poorly, I instead went for the all reliable 205 grade 0 on the housings and XHT BDZ on the wires. They came out pretty good. After installing the stabs with these little tick guards and testing them, I'll move on to installing the plate and switches. I won't be including the PE foam or plate foam here because I don't want to mute the board too much and I want to give it some character. Like I said earlier, there are 2 types of gasket mount options, the gasket socks and the jackets. The socks only cover the ends of the gasket tabs and will result in a more soft typing experience, whereas the jackets will lead to a stiffer and slightly more muted typing experience. I wanted to see how flexy the board can get, so I went with the socks. When I install my switches, I will typically start by installing switches into every corner in the plate with one in the middle to ensure that the plate is aligned, but I won't be using the PCB standoffs as it'll stiffen the typing feel. Using some movie magic, I can quickly install the switches, and once those are installed, I'll flip the PCB upside down and add the case foam. Then I'll add the bottom housing on and flip it back around. I'll add the silicone dampener later to compare with and without. And once that's done, I'll add the top housing and screw the case together in a cross pattern to evenly distribute the screw tension. I'll install the weight back into the case, and once that's done, I'll install the rubber feet. These actually go in just by aligning these rubber nubs and pushing it into the case, which means that if you ever want to mod the case again, these are super easy to remove. Then it's just a matter of putting the keycaps on to finish the build. Here's how it sounds, and there'll be a full sound test at the end of the video if you're interested. With the Meteor Whites, I feel like this board came out very creamy sounding. The Meteor Whites are notoriously very clacky switches, but in this build with the palm plate and the case foam, I think they were tamed down a little bit. But weirdly enough, the Boba LTs, which are usually really deep and low pitched, sounded noticeably more clacky with and without the silicone dampener. So I think this board without the PE foam leans more towards the clacky side, but I'll have to do some more testing with different configurations. I definitely prefer the sound and feel of the LTs though with the silicone dampener. If you were to install a PE foam, I feel like there would be very little difference between the Meteor Whites and the Boba LTs. Removing the PE foam will make each of the switches' character more prevalent. One thing I noticed with this board is that the EY is definitely a warmer color. You can see compared to my Noel keycaps that they are noticeably more warm, so keep that in mind. Going with the stepped caps lock and this blueberry cheesecake cable from Cable Mod really added a nice aesthetic to this board, and I'm all for it. This board is VIA compatible. All you need to do is download the key map for your PCB and load it into VIA. I'll leave a link to a build guide if you need it. I managed to rearrange the far right column into what I normally have it as. My spacebar sounds very thin, and I think the plate foam will help with that, so I'd recommend using the plate foam. And you won't need to worry about losing any flex, since this board, even in its most flexy configuration, has more of a soft bottom out. There isn't any flex while typing. One thing I haven't really mentioned since the start of the video is the price of the board. I know I said it starts at $160, and it does. My board with the E-White coating and the hot swap PCB costs $180 before shipping. Expect to pay anywhere from $30 to $50 worth of shipping, and if you're buying direct from Qwertykeys, mine cost $54 to get it to the OC, which really hurt my wallet and brought the total bill of the finished build to just over $400 US after shipping. So budget? Definitely not. Entry level? Maybe. I would say it is, but it depends on how you look at it. Overall, for the price, I think that the QK65 is an amazing board. As long as you know about the shipping cost for around $200 total, depending on the coding and where you live, I still think that this is a really good board. Qwertykeys have already announced an R2, which will be an unlimited group buy instead of a drop, where you can mix and match housings and weights, which I think is a super cool option. I know that in this video I only used 2 case configurations with the PE foam and plate foam completely foregone, but I'm going to be releasing 4 sound tests over the next week or so with this board in 4 different configurations, 2 thaw key configs, one with linears and the other with tactiles, and 2 clack key configs with a linear and tactile option as well, so keep an eye out for those if you're interested. I can't really give a comparison to other keyboards I own because this is by far my most expensive build to date, and obviously the QK65 would absolutely destroy all of my other plastic case boards. It wouldn't even be fair. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out as I am quite literally broke after building this keyboard, so leave a like if you enjoy my financial suffering. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.